Hi, this is Dr. Darnise, and I have another installment for you about African spiritualities. This one's a little bit different. This one's about African spiritualities as they are portrayed in the media, in particularly some television shows and film. So, how many of you watched the show Queen Sugar on OWN? It's been quite a successful show for the Oprah Winfrey Network. It portrays a black family in New Orleans and, just sort of a drama. It's a drama, kind of soap opera drama about this family in New Orleans, and they're farmers and they're trying to make it, and, multi-layered. And it's a beautiful show in a lot of ways because it portrays black life in a really multifaceted way that we're not necessarily used to seeing black family life presented. Usually it's skewed, one way or another about the struggle and, only the struggle or only the well-off. But anyway, the point of this particular video is how African spiritualities are portrayed, number one, in Queen Sugar, and two, in some other things I'll get to in a moment. But if you're watching, there's a character in the show, Nova Bordalon. The family name is Bordalon. And Nova is a very interesting character because she is portrayed as someone who is practicing some kind of, I can't even name it exactly, but she's practicing some kind of, I'm going to say African spirituality. I can't name it because they don't really name it in the show to say she's a practitioner of Ifa or, Oshun or any of the deities or names that we might know. So, but what we do see is kind of just embedded in the show are her practices, which I think is really great to do it that way because it really normalizes her spirituality as part of her life. And so it's not something that she, has to stop doing and do this thing. It's my spirituality is part of my life. It's an outflowing of who I am and how I am in the world, who I be, which is very much an aspect of African traditional spiritualities. It's not that you, reserve one day a week and say, okay, I'm going to just go to church or practice my religion on that day, or I'm just going to have this one time set aside. It's something that informs you. And so as we watch Nova in Queen Sugar, we're seeing that. So just recently, this is July, so just recently the episode that aired showed her performing what appears to be a baby christening for these two babies in their little bassinets, and she's sort of performing this ritual and, putting like sugar on their lips, putting a little salt on their lips to say, the sugar represents the sweetness that comes with life. The salt represents the fact that sometimes you're going to be salty, your experiences are going to be salty. And then she wraps them in a blanket and says, this is to remind you of the warmth and comfort of being in the womb. And so it's a beautiful ceremony. And I thought, wow, look what they're doing in this show. They're really integrating African spirituality, which of course I think is great. Now, if you haven't watched my other videos about African spiritualities, maybe you want to do that too, because I talked about how Beyonce does that in her video for the album Lemonade. And what else? The other one I talked about, African spiritualities, the origin of them in America, how we ended up having them kind of part of our experience in the U.S. So those are two other videos you can check out. But this one is really about, my noticing what's happening in the media here. And it's beautiful and probably, I shouldn't say probably, maybe they wouldn't have the same freedom if it was not, if it was on one of the major networks, ABC, CBS, or NBC. Maybe that wouldn't be portrayed as richly, but Nova's present. She's a dark chocolate woman with dreads, and her whole presentation is very Afrocentric. And, but again, it's not shouted. It's just part of who she is. It's just the way she exudes and is in the world. And that's really the beauty of it, because your spirituality, I think, should be something that just exudes. It's not something that you have to go out of your way to point out and tell people, well, I'm this or I'm that. No, it's how I live my life. Additionally, I think Nova is about some other kinds of maybe, I don't know, traditional practices, because I see her performing a cleansing for her sister, Charlie, and she pulls out the sage and she's doing a smudge. If you're not familiar with that, it's something that in many Native American traditions, there's this process of cleansing. And so you take this smudge stick and burn it, and so it lets off this smoke, this fragrant smoke, and then you just kind of go around a person or a room to cleanse the person, to cleanse the space, to say that, we're going forward with a clean slate, so to speak. Some people like to do a smudging when they move into a new house, new apartment, they get a new job, they have a new office, and so you just want to kind of clear out the energy of the old and allow for your space to be, neutral for yourself. So we see Nova doing that for her sister Charlie, who in the show is going through a divorce and she is starting anew. And so again, Nova to the rescue, and she steps in with her sort of bag of tricks, shall we say, of traditional practices. In addition, we've seen Nova be the person in the community that other people come to get their, I guess we'll call it medicinal marijuana or herbs in general. I mean, maybe, I'm assuming what it is, but it sometimes seems like it's a medicinal marijuana, and other times it's herbs. It's like a little satchel, a little package of something. And again, she doesn't say, it's not part of the show to say, this is this, and I practice Ifa, Yoruba. No, it's just woven in. And so as I reflect upon Queen Sugar and what's happening there, I just think it's a beautiful telling of who we are as a people. And it's beautiful that it's happening in a television show, which, as I said, is set in New Orleans. Now, New Orleans has this great history as well of being a mixing pot for African spiritualities, African culture, as well as the French, as well as the American, what became American. But the New Orleans culture is very unique in America. It represents this melting pot of so many cultures that you can't really put your finger on in other parts of this country. So it's pretty amazing. And maybe I'll do another video actually and talk about New Orleans spirituality and African spirituality that we see in New Orleans, rather. Maybe I'll do another video on that, because gets a little bit away from what I'm talking about here in terms of Queen Sugar and Nova. The second media that I wanted to talk about is a film, and it's older now. The film is called Daughters of the Dust. And I should have looked it up. I didn't even look it up. I think it came out in the 90s. And it represents a story of a black family, the women of the family who kind of inherited some property in the Sea Islands. And those are like the islands that are off the coast of the Carolinas that African people were brought to during the slave trade, and they were left there on those islands. And so the culture developed rather independently of the mainland U.S. It retained a lot more of the African retentions, the Africanisms. And so the movie shows these people, these women, Daughters of the Dust, living their lives and trying to come to grips with life. And again, the African is just woven in. I think it's more explicitly so in Daughters of the Dust than Queen Sugar. It's more explicitly a part of who they are, and I really recommend it. However, I will say it's kind of an abstract film. It's more of an art kind of film, so it's not going to be, you might come away from it feeling like, well, I'm not quite sure what that was or what it was about, other than to say it's a family film and reflecting what these women are going through as they put their lives together in the wake of some other events. So yeah, that and so I'm happy to see what I'm seeing in the media in terms of African spiritualities, because for so long these spiritualities have been demonized and still are, really. I mean, some of the comments I get, frankly, people are still saying, it's devil worship, and just because they come from Africa doesn't mean it's good. you know, you can really save those comments, because it's not that. It's that we are, as African people, and that's our culture. Um, and so I'm happy to see African spiritualities portrayed in ways that are not just sensational for a movie, like if you recall, zombie movies, or what was that movie from a long time ago with Lisa Bonet in it? Oh my gosh, The Serpent and the Rainbow, I think it was. But very, very much about, you know, turning people into zombies, and you know, just demonizing the whole African spirituality kind of culture. So from that, you know, we go to spiritualities that reflect the way people really live. And that's what I think is so amazing, and that's what I wanted to come on here and talk about. If you have some comments about some other shows, some film that you know, or the practices are, African spiritual practices are being, you know, integrated in a good, positive way, I'd like to hear it, you know. Another one comes to mind is Eve's Bayou. Again, a film from a number of years ago, but if you've never seen Eve's Bayou, you can look at that. Again, slightly, you know, leaning towards, you know, putting roots on people and that kind of thing. But at least you do get a sense that African spiritualities have something positive to offer as well. All right, so I hope you've gotten something out of this video, and that you have something that you want to offer back to me in the comments. Remember to like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll be coming on with more topics about African spiritualities and other things as well. So until next time.